Welcome to another episode of Let's Parlay, where we encourage you to bet on yourself and pursue all that life has in store for you. I'm your host, Monty Taylor, and without further ado, let's parlay. All right, as always, guys, I want to thank you for tuning in wherever you're listening from, wherever you're watching from. I appreciate you just taking the time out of your day to tune in and listen to my Black Behind talk about all sorts of stuff that I feel like is relevant to you. So, very much appreciate it. As I always say, pray and honor this time that I have with you, and just pray that whatever it is that we talk about today is going to impact your life in a positive way. So, without further ado, let's dive into this topic. All right. Today, we're going to talk about how to know if you're supposed to bet on yourself. What are the signs? What are those moments, or what are those reoccurring thoughts that you may have that make you feel like, all right, I feel pretty strongly about this, but I'm still a little iffy. We want to clear all that up for you today because I don't want you to have any uncertainty about making this decision to bet on yourself. I want you to be able to read the tea leaves, or read in between. Read in between the tea leaves? Is that how the phrase goes? I don't know. But anyway, I want you to be able to understand when it's that time for you. But not only, but let's not even say when it's that time, but if it's ever going to be that time, or if it is that time currently for you to bet on yourself. Um, I feel like this is something that a lot of people probably struggle with because you kind of get caught up in a routine, and you get caught up in the day to day, and you have all these different distractions that kind of allow you to feel good about the fact that you've been stuck in this continuous pattern. But we're going to dive into some of those details, some of the signs that you should look out for when it comes to knowing if you're supposed to even bet on yourself. Uh, I want to start off with something a little bit more lighthearted, yet again, and just kind of keep it fresh because I feel like this is, I want to balance things out. I don't want to just be talking at you and making you feel like you got to do X, Y, and Z. I want to be a little bit vulnerable with you, okay? And I want to talk about some times where maybe I've misread the signs, all right? Especially for us fellas. I'm sure that there's plenty of us out there who have misread the signs when it comes to things that we've taken risk on. Ladies, maybe you have too. But for me particularly, I just look back at some times when I was in my early mid 20s, outside, just just doing all sorts of ungodly things on the weekends, going on trips and drinking a bunch and doing all that sort of stuff. I'm now healed. I'm now much more wholesome and in a better place. However, there was a time when I was outside, and I remember there'll be plenty of times where you shoot your shot and you'd miss. Okay, if you know what I mean. You'd be out there and maybe there'd be some music playing in the background, the drinks are flowing, the energy's high, especially in the East Coast. Ain't nothing like partying in the East Coast. For all my East Coasters out there who know what a good time is, who know what a good party and vibe is, that's what I grew up on. That's what's in my blood. My family is very much about dancing, enjoying ourselves, and having a good time. But anyway, when I think about misreading signs, there have been plenty of times where I have, you know, where you might be in the club and you look across and see a young lady who you're attracted to, and you're like, oh, maybe she's feeling my same vibes too. And with some liquid courage, a lot of your logic goes out of the window. So you become a lot more emboldened to think that things are true that aren't necessarily true. And I remember a handful of moments when I'd go up to somebody and I'd say whatever I thought would continue the conversation. And it ended right there. It ended right there. There was no more to be said. She didn't have no interest in me, but before that moment, I sure as hell had interest in her. The reality is, it didn't work out. I misread the signs. And that's what we're going to try to make sure we don't do anymore, is misread signs. We want you to feel confident about whatever decision you're going to take or make to bet on yourself. And we want that to be something that you don't feel shaky about, uncertain about. And that's what this episode is all about. So I hope that me opening up with a little bit of vulnerability about my rejections and about some some misopportune timing when I came up and talked to somebody who just wasn't feeling whatever I had going on. I hope that that lets you know that it is completely okay to have misread signs in your past. But anyway, let's get into the nitty gritty behind all of this. So in life, we're always looking for signs. But when it comes to betting on yourself, how do you really know when it's time for you? And that's what we want to address today. I feel like there is a good opportunity to just evaluate your current reality and assess where things are for you. And there's many ways to do that, but I want to start off by asking you some questions to help make sure that you are taking a healthy approach with it. I don't want you to just be looking at one aspect of your life and being like, oh, well, I got this one sign and this is it. I'm hoping that we take a very holistic approach and we ask the right questions to get to that. So let's talk through that. First thing I want you to do is ask yourself, are you truly happy? Again, when it comes to being happy, you could be doing all sorts of things on the weekend. You could be taking all sorts of vacations to escape whatever your current reality is, because that is the definition of vacating. You are vacating a place that you are uh, essentially enthralled in to leave and go elsewhere, but with the intentions of coming back. All right. You're always going to have to come back to whatever it is that you're not happy with. Same thing with the weekends. I remember I used to live for the weekends. I used to ask myself, like, oh man, like, what are we getting into now? What are we doing now? And it was all because I was trying to just escape the fact that I had to go into this office and do work that I wasn't necessarily passionate about, but I just felt like I had to do to survive. So that's the question that I want to pose to you first is, are you happy where you're at? So not are you happy with the money that you're making, not are you happy with uh, the fact that that money allows you to, no, but like, are you happy doing what you're doing? Are you happy with your current life and the line of work that you've chosen to pursue? It's a very important question to ask. And I hope that that kind of leads you into the next one pretty smoothly, which is, are you feeling stuck or unfulfilled? Now, this question is a little bit different because being unhappy is something, but there's plenty of people who are unhappy who don't necessarily feel like they're stuck. They're just kind of going through the motions and they're completely fine with it. But when I say stuck, I mean, you feel like there's no other options. Like, you feel as if I don't do this, then I don't know what I'm necessarily going to do. Um, a good thing to really think about is, are you being drained by whatever that work is? Are you being drained by the lifestyle that it's created for you? I've talked to countless people, whether it be fitness coaching clients of mine, life coaching clients of mine, where their work literally impedes them from being healthy. It literally impedes them from having any sort of mental clarity, any sort of peace, any sort of knowing what's happening next. They are just essentially a slave to whatever it is that the job is presenting to them, whether it comes to like travel obligations, all sorts of different things. Now, that could be completely fine if you're happy. That could be completely fine if you have uh, an opportunity to grow and pursue what you're looking to pursue as a result of staying. But if you're feeling like, I don't want to go to where people ahead of me are, and I don't even like where I'm at now, then this may be a sign that you're stuck and possibly unfulfilled. So it's a great question to ask yourself. The other thing that is really helpful to ask is more on the side of whatever it is that you're looking to possibly explore outside of where you currently are, whatever that bet is, whatever that risk is. And the question around that is like, are you excited to do it? Does that idea really get you going? Does it get your blood flowing and get your mind turning? Does it spur more creativity for you? I remember for me, when I was working as an engineer, I always felt like I needed to get out of that space, or at least whether it be the company or just that line of work. I knew that there was something kind of like eating at me to get out. And a lot of those signs for me, just to open up with you guys, is that I would go into work and I remember I would find any way not to be in the office. I would take longer bathroom breaks. I was being very dishonest at the time, to just be full transparent with you. And it was a tough thing for me to to really continue, because I knew it didn't feel right in my spirit, like not only in my soul, and like and how I felt about just mishandling my time, because these people are paying me to be there, but it also just didn't feel right for me, because I knew that there were other ways. I just knew that there was a way for me to possibly find a situation where I'm not feeling like this, where I'm not feeling so tied down to a job or to an opportunity that is just keeping me where I'm at. So yeah, I went through a long period of that. And when it comes to that question of does this excite you, I remember when I first discovered my passion for fitness. Ah man, it was a really, really cool time. It was during the pandemic, and I was sitting um in my living room, and I was watching a podcast. I think it was the School of Greatness, and I forgot who it was. It might have been Rory something. I forgot the guy's name, but he was a guest on the podcast, and he was talking about, how do you decide like what that thing is? Like how do you know if whatever it is that you're curious about is the thing for you? And he said something about like, would you be doing this if nobody paid you to do it? And immediately my mind went to like, oh, like yeah, I would definitely be helping people with fitness. Like I help people all the time. I want to talk to them about what I've discovered about the fitness journey that I've gone on, and the whole process of losing body fat, putting on muscle mass, all that sort of stuff. I was like, yo, I would definitely do that I feel like I do it right now. And that excited me. Like it made me feel like very much attached to this future state where I could be doing that full time, where that could be my line of work. So for me, the idea definitely excited me. Like it was something that I was looking forward to. It started to build up momentum. So for you, in whatever situation that you're in, if whatever that idea is that you want to take a leap on, or take that risk for yourself on, if it doesn't excite you, then maybe that's not the thing. If it's like, oh, it's exciting what kind of money I'll make, or if it's exciting just to get out of here, then that may not be it. But if the opportunity itself excites you, then that's something that you should definitely do a little bit more digging into, ask yourself more questions about, and even ask the people who are around you in your circle about, to understand like, hey, does this make sense? Like, I feel very compelled to do this, like, can I just get a little bit more like affirmation on this? Then I'm not talking crazy. And in some cases, maybe you are. But if you still feel excited about it, then go after that. The other question, which is going to be a heavy hitter for a lot of y'all, is, do you feel like you're wasting your potential? Now that's a tough one, because for me specifically, I remember feeling like I connected with people a lot better uh, than maybe the average person. I always felt like I could have really good conversations with people. I like to ask questions. Um, people had told me that there was a sort of charisma that I carried whenever I met someone. So there was like external validation of that, and there's also like how I felt uh, exercising my social skills. And I remember being an engineer, kind of stuck behind a desk, and it was tough for me to exercise that skill. It felt like I was kind of just trapped in this box of figuring out these technical problems, or these, operational problems, but it never felt as if I was actually helping someone directly and being able to ask the right questions. And I'm sure that there were avenues where I could have done that, but not in the way that I wanted to. So for me, it felt like I was kind of wasting that God-given ability, or even, something that I just accrued over time, is being more social and knowing how to have better conversations. And it felt like that potential was just, it was so large for me to like flex that muscle, but I wasn't using it in my current line of work. So if that's something for you where you feel like, man, yo, I on the side, man, I'll freaking design a flyer. I'll design, people's content. I do that stuff for free. Like I love that stuff. And people tell me I'm really good at it. Well, there's a lot of potential there, because what if you did that full time? Maybe someone would pay you 10 times more than what you're making at your current line of work, that's not related to the thing that you're actually skillful at or talented in. So your potential is very much rooted in what skills have you acquired, what assets do you currently have, where it's not something that's common. And even if it is something that's common, do you feel like you would stand out in that arena because of your passion for it, but also because of your talent and your skill set. So, are you wasting potential? Is a great question to ask. Okay. The other thing I also got to make sure to remind you guys about is, sometimes discomfort isn't a punishment, right? It's a push towards the thing that you're supposed to be doing. So if you answered all these questions and you're like, yes, Monty, like all yeses to all these things, like it excites me. I don't feel fulfilled in my job. I'm feeling stuck. I'm not really happy. And I feel like I'm wasting my potential. If that's the case, this is good. Like this is something that you actually want to hone in on because it's been provided to you so that you can know that it's time to change. So all these answers that you're coming up with, it's not you don't want to put the blame on you and make it come out as a negative. If anything, it's a positive. It's like, oh, this is a confirmation that it's time to make a change. I need to do something different here. I need to, stake out for myself and make a bet on myself and pursue something differently. So I just want you to really make sure that you don't feel like you're being punished by your circumstances. You're learning from your circumstances and evaluating so that you can move on to the next step. All right. The other thing I want to talk about is your mindset because a lot of this is going to play into whether you should or should not, make a bet on yourself. Because if you go out into the world with the wrong mindset, you will fall flat on your face. A lot of what we're doing is all a matter of what's in between our two ears, how we think about it, what do we expect out of it? And we want to dive into that today too. All right. So, first question I want to ask you is fear holding you back more than logic is? All right. So, like, are you going through the what if scenarios and coming up with all sorts of like just outrageous, terrible outcomes that are not likely to come true? And even if they are, is that exactly how it's going to play out? Are you really just going to be all on your lonesome on the streets with nobody to help you? Like, are you going to die? Right? Like, start asking yourself these questions because a lot of the times that's how our body responds to it. Our nervous system is kind of geared to protect ourselves from death as a survival mechanism, but that's not the reality. A lot of the times you're just fearful more than you are like logically thinking it through. So ask yourself a lot of questions to see if it's more of a fear thing than it is a logic thing. The other thing is, are you looking for external validation more than you are internal validation? Are you constantly asking people if it's okay? If you're one of those type of people, then my God, you may not have the right mindset to be doing this because when you go into the world and you stake out for yourself, the only person who's going to always be there to let you know that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing is you. There may be a circumstance where nobody believes in what you're doing. So if it's only dependent on external validation, granted, I mean, some external validation is helpful. If you're talking to somebody who's made similar decisions and made similar risk, and they're about to go into a space of giving you advice on that exact thing, then yeah, maybe you should take into consideration what they're saying. But man, I mean, if you are just solely dependent on that, then that ain't the right mindset because there's going to be a lot of times where your circumstances are not going to be as pretty and you're going to need people who are going to pump you up and who are going to look to support you. And if you don't have that, then you need to get that from within. All right. And that's a lot of where the faith component comes in for me personally, where sometimes I felt pretty alone. Sometimes I wish I would have had someone be like, yeah, it's definitely going to work out. It's going to be supportive, or people who are going to be supportive. And that just wasn't the case. And I had to have a personal relationship with God to be like, all right, like I'm going to trust you on this one, man. Like I'm going to lean into this. I'm going to do what I can, but I'm just hoping that you'll meet me halfway. And 10 times out of 10, he always does. And that's my little spiel on, your relationship with God and faith. But yeah, external validation that do not depend on that. If you are dependent on that, then it's time to make a change. Find some way to get some internal validation as well too. Another question is, do you think about what if more than what is? All right. So if you spend more time imagining a different life than your current one, that's a clue. If you're constantly in your head, like, yo, like, I could be doing this, I could be, what if I was there and this, as opposed to thinking about like what is currently and being happy with it. Like if you're thinking a lot about the future or a lot about a different state or what if something changed and not as much about like what you appreciate now, one, I'd say you should just get rid of that mindset as a whole because it's not going to serve you. Like, yes, that may push you to want to make a move out, but you always got to be grateful for what you have. It's there for a reason, whether to learn from it, whether to grow from it, whether to earn from it and reap the rewards of it. It's there for a reason. However, if you find yourself a lot of the time thinking about like, man, like if I were to really take that leap, if I were to, you know, start that business, or if I were to create that social media page and start posting content, then what if I did all of these things and what would be the result of all of that? If that's where your head is at, then that's a really, really strong sign that it may be time for you to, pack your bags and make that move. Now, again, this is all mindset. So there's logistics and there's all sorts of things that you have to figure out in between. But if your mind is already there, then it's time for your feet to start moving, player. All right. Like we gotta get it pushing. You only got one life to live, and time is something that we don't get back. So I want you to assess the possibility of you making that decision for yourself because it'll be worthwhile. And another thing I want you guys to think about is if you were called to something, trust that was trust that it was put in your heart for a reason. Like, I think this is just something that a lot of people tend to miss out on as an opportunity, especially those folks who probably are outside of, believing that there is any sort of higher power and whatnot. Even if that's the case, that's completely fine. If you think that like your world will essentially be centered around you and that everything's going to work out for you for more like probability reasons or whatever, that's fine too. But it still requires faith in that, even if you take a risk. It still requires some level of faith in knowing that things will probably work out for the better. Even if you run the statistical analysis, even if you think about all the likelihood that something will or will not go wrong, you still have to believe in those numbers. You still have to believe in whoever put that together. But even from a faith side of things, if you look at your life as a story, and if you think about, all right, this is a phase that I'm currently in. I'm currently unhappy because it's life is trying to tell me that I need to be somewhere else. So this is all just a sign. It's not necessarily, again, a punishment, or it's not necessarily something I did wrong. This was supposed to happen. This was here for a reason. And the next place that I'm going to is also there for a reason. So if you take a step back and really evaluate life from that standpoint, I think it'll do you a lot of good because it'll just provide you more direction and more purpose behind every step that you're taking in that direction. So something to marinate on a little bit. And as always, I just like to leave you guys with a few action steps before we close out. I want to make sure that you can actually go home or, take a break from this and think about some things and put your feet to the ground and actually move towards something. So the first thing that I want you to think about and I want you to do is, how do you feel about your current life? And write that down somewhere. Put the pen to paper, write it down in, your Apple Notes or whatever. Just put it down somewhere and write it out because there's a really powerful response that our brains have to writing something down and putting it on paper. So take that step and really assess where you're currently at. Are you thriving or are you just surviving? Step two, I want you to journal about your dreams. Okay. What keeps showing up in your mind? Even when you try to ignore it, like what are those things that are just reoccurring where you're like, oh man, like I just keep thinking about this thing. I mean, shoot, it might even be a relationship. It might even be a business opportunity. It might even be just, picking up whatever it is that you've been wanting to pick up for yourself for the longest time, but you just haven't. You haven't put in that time and research to find it for yourself. Whatever. Like if you're thinking about it a lot, there's probably a reason that you are. Okay. So Journal about that for a little bit. Step number 3, I want you to just take one action today. All right. Every one of these episodes, I want you to leave just taking one piece of action. Do some research. Have a conversation with someone in that field that you're looking to go into. Just take any small step forward and build upon that. Like that small step, sometimes it feels like a brick wall, but more than likely, it's a thin sheet of glass. You just need to puncture that thing, and then the whole thing shatters, and you can move right past it. So I want you to just take one step to go in that direction so that you can start building momentum to go and pursue the life that you've been called to pursue. The last thing I want you to do is ask for guidance, man. I mean, if you could take some time to sit down and pray, meditate, reflect, look for some sort of inner confirmation. I mean, there's a power in that voice that we all hear in our heads. Now, again, everybody has their own beliefs about, what it is. Is it just the subconscious? Is it God? Is it the devil? Is it, you know, our brain replaying past experiences and formulating whatever thought that's available at the time? Whatever it might be, it could be very informative. Because if you keep thinking about something, and if it's something that you feel like just won't go away, that's something you want to listen to. And that's my encouragement to you is that, hey, if you keep hearing that thing, it might be something that you're hearing for a reason, and it's not something that you want to ignore. Because if you ignore it, you're going to look back and think, man, if only I would have. And you don't want to live a life of regret. So go ahead and think through that as well too. And that'll be the last step for you guys. Honestly, you don't need a big flashing sign or somebody waving at you saying, "Hey, it's time. Get the hell out of your job. Quit. Start the business." You don't need that. All right? Like a lot of it's going to be very much internal, and that's a part of the journey is, making that decision for yourself and knowing that that may not necessarily be the perfect next step, but it's a step. And that's what it's all about, is just taking action and moving in the direction that you're hoping to move in. Happiness is very much derived from progress. So let's start making some progress. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation in this episode around just figuring out if you're even supposed to be taking this risk on yourself. I hope it was insightful. Hope that it was a good 30 minutes or however long this is of time that you were able to invest in yourself. And I also want to get some feedback, guys. If you want to, DM me or comment on this post, on this video, feel free to let me know what you guys are thinking, because I definitely want to hear your feedback, and I want to get better, and I want you guys to get better as a result as well too. So, yeah, just keep this process very introspective. Next time, we're going to talk about knowing when it's the time to take that leap for yourself, getting into a little bit more like logistics and like what it'll actually take to plan all of that. So I'm excited to bring that episode to you. We'll talk about overcoming fears and a few other topics as we continue in this series. So appreciate you guys as always. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Let's Parlay. I hope you've been inspired to bet on yourself and pursue all that life has in store for you. God bless, and have a great rest of your day.